Hello everybody, Dark Skeleton here, and today we're going for another 10 really overrated Hearthstone cards. These cards are not necessarily competitive or uncompetitive, but the point of this video is to illustrate that compared to their actual power level, that they've been overrated quite a bit inside of the metagame. First up, we have the Tournament Medic. A couple decks have tried to be pretty cute with this by playing a very slow fatigue deck and abusing a hero power in order to heal up. One that comes to mind is the Shadow Priest deck. But in most circumstances, when you're playing a Tournament Medic, it just falls way short of an antique heal bot. You would actually have to use your hero power 4 times to heal the same amount as an antique heal bot. And in some worlds, you could even argue that the 3/3 stats of the 5 mana antique heal bot are better than the 1/8 of the healer. Besides, if your minions are lasting that long on the field, then you probably won the game anyway. Number 2, the Co Mercenary. Yeah, it's got a big 7/6 body for 5 mana, that's true, but the drawback of this card, especially in arena mode, which is where you always see it, is really big, and a lot of people underestimate how drastically that can screw your game over. A smart arena player leaves your Co Mercenary on the field so that they can slow you down, and in that following turn where you have to pay 3 more mana for each of your minions, it is really devastating if you can't get your Co off the field. In some circumstances, it's even worse than just having a big minion on the field that slows your game down, because your opponent can play a Frost Elemental to freeze your Co Mercenary in place, not only making you unable to play minions, but making the big minion on your field completely unusable and will slow you down for yet another turn after that. It's not a bad card in Arena, but if you're going to play Co Mercenary, you should be sure that you don't need that 3 extra mana next turn, or that you're sure that the Co Mercenary is going to be dead, or at least silenced. Number 3, the Void Terror. Another one of those cards that isn't bad and is sometimes actually seen in fairly competitive zoo decks. This card allows you to basically consume your other minions, such as a Nerubian Egg or a power-overwhelming Nerubian Egg, and place a really big minion out onto the board. In ideal circumstances, it's about a 7/10 plus you trigger the Nerubian Egg, causing a 4/4 on the field, and it's just incredibly hard to stop. But in other circumstances, or when it's played incorrectly, you make one huge minion out onto the field, such as a 7/10 or even bigger than that, and you really open yourself up for hard removal. If your opponent has Big Game Hunter after you Void Terror to kill one of your minions off, and then create one super minion, then you might as well just concede because you just got wrecked. Number 4, the Warhorse Trainer. This card doesn't look that bad, and it's really an okay card, but honestly, it's a glorified raid leader that only works with Silverhand recruits. So you're paying 3 mana for a 2/4, which is already kind of mediocre stats. You're losing an attack there. And it buffs up your Silverhand recruits on the field, which you probably have about 1 of. If you're lucky, you might have 2 or 3. And then from there, it's a raid leader that has 2 extra hit points. Now, once again, not a bad card, but I think people overvalue it in Arena, thinking that they're going to have this imaginary situation where they have 4 Silverhand recruits on the field, and then they play a Warhorse Trainer into it and take the game. The reality is that that situation rarely happens, and more often than not, it's a 2/4 body that maybe gives one of your extra minions plus 1 attack. It's not a bad card in Arena, but don't make the mistake of thinking it's going to carry your game. There are better cards to choose from, like a True Silver Champion. Number 5, Wilfred Fizzle. This might be one of the best cases of cards or legendaries that were overrated before they were released, because the reality of Wilfred Fizzle is that he's actually quite terrible. In best case scenarios, he's a 6 mana 4/4, you tap for 2 more mana, and then you life tap into a 0 mana Jiraxxus, and that's pretty good, but the problem is, not knowing what card you're going to draw next makes playing Wilfred Fizzle anywhere from terrible to pretty good. However, even when the effect is kinda good, you still have to keep in mind that you paid 8 mana to life tap into that new card, and you paid 6 mana for 4/4 minion. And anytime Wilfred Fizzle does hit the board, it's gonna be removed immediately, so you pretty much get 1 effect off, and that's just not enough for this card to be worth playing. Number 6, the Wobbly Runtin. Not an insanely popular card, sees some play in Arena, but a 2/6 for 6 mana that death rattles into 3 2/2s, you would look at that and think, hey, this card actually has a lot of stats baked into it, but the problem is that it's just way too slow. So if you thought it would be a great Arena card, it's more of an okay Arena card, and if you thought it would be an okay constructed card, it's more of a this is just way too slow to ever play. Number 7, Shrugs or the Inator. This card was actually recommended by one of my subscribers, so good on him for this, because Shrugs or the Inator was originally played kind of frequently at the start of Goblins vs. Gnomes as a card that people thought would be really good, forcing your opponent to use a hard removal like a polymorph on it and then still having to deal with random 3/5 Shrugs. It seems pretty good, but the reality is that in most cases, you can just play minions into it, take it out the regular way, and it's not that big of a threat. It costs 7 mana, so if it doesn't force your opponent to do anything crazy, then you just kind of paid a lot of extra mana for something that really should have been a 5-drop. Number 8, the Shadow Bomber. This card made me and many other people think, whoa, Aggro Priest is going to be a thing. Dealing 3 damage to your opponent's face immediately, it's like having a second Leper Gnome. But the reality is that A, Aggro Priest was never a thing, and B, this card's probably weaker than Leper Gnome anyway, because even as an Aggro Priest, you don't want to damage yourself 3 damage. If you take damage too fast, you can easily put yourself on the back foot where your opponent will just kill you while you're trying to aggro their face down. All in all, it's just a bad card for a deck that never existed. Number 9, Summoning Stone. Now, there have been times in Tavern Brawl where, because of the rule set, Summoning Stone has been insane. But the problem is that this card does absolutely nothing by itself, and in most cases is way too slow to play in Constructed or Arena mode. Yet, I've seen the occasional player actually take Summoning Stone into Ranked mode, and when they just have to play a 0/6 on the board, which gets taken out by random minions, that's just really sad. To play Summoning Stone is one of the greediest things you can do, and 80 or 90% of the time, it's not going to work, and you just don't build a deck around things that fail most of the time. Number 10, Tauren Warrior. This one is kind of targeted more towards arena players because I've rarely if ever seen anyone use it in Constructed, but a 3 mana 2/3 is pitiful. A 3 mana 2/3 that has Taunt is still pitiful, much like Ironbark Patriarch, a 3 mana 1/4. But the fact that this card has an Enrage effect to gain 3 attack is pretty much irrelevant. Would you really pay 1 extra mana for Amani Berserker with Taunt? The answer is no. But some arena players actually do draft this card, and 90% of the time, it just ends up being a really easy minion to take out, and the Taunt is kind of meaningless because the stats on the card sucked. The Enrage effect will very rarely, if ever, be relevant, and beyond that, you're just paying for a badly statted minion like a Lord of the Arena. Just because it has Taunt does not mean it's a good card that you should pick up in Arena. If you really want to protect your life total, get minions that are strong, that will tempo the board and prevent your opponent from getting free damage in on your face. It works a lot better than playing crappy taunts. So that's it for this video and the third part of my series on the overrated cards in Hearthstone. I think that'll be it for now. Maybe after Old Gods is released, we'll come back with part 4, but aside from that, I've been Dark Skeleton. If you liked this video, go ahead and like it, maybe subscribe, and if you really liked the video, consider donating to my Patreon account so that I can keep making these wonderful videos. Beyond that, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.